T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. This is episode 86. Today, we're going to be talking about competitions in esports and Star Citizen, the different features that come up that might change the aspect and the lookout of those things, and kind of where things are headed in all of that regard in terms of tournaments and player events and all of that stuff. And I've got a great, honestly, previous content creator, still a content creator, but mainly just running this event now, running multiple events in different places, Star Citizen and other games. Crucian Gaming is with me today. Thank you so much for joining me today, buddy. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited to be here finally to get to be able to chat a little bit with you and talk a little bit about esports.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having you on. Like we were saying before the show, like we've both kind of been jumping around the same circles. You've been running esports or the ATMO Esports stuff for a while with Corsair and the crew. I have been kind of covering it a little bit, but mainly doing content creation. But like I keep seeing your name, and I want to talk with you or get a chance to stream with you. So I'm glad to finally get a chance to chat. And we've got some interesting stuff to talk about today. So
I'm excited.
We got the Daymar Rally coming up in about a week, and most people, I would assume, probably don't know too much about it. We've had a ton of new members come in the last year. The rally itself, while being the biggest event in Star Citizen, is still not necessarily known by everybody. So can you just give us like a brief description, I guess, of what the event is? What is the Daymar Rally? Why should people be interested in it?
So the Daymar Rally is pretty much a massive endurance race in the persistent universe that takes you across the moon of Daymar. Like I said, an endurance race that it takes about, depends on what division you're racing into the Daymar Rally. It can take anywhere between 1.5 hours for the bike division. For the buggy division, it can take anywhere between 4 to 5 hours. And then you have the truck division, which are like the rovers, which can take anywhere between 6 to 8 hours. So it's a massive endurance race across the moon of Daymar, imitating where the event was born, imitating the Dakar Rally, which is a massive endurance race in real life in the Saudi Arabian desert that takes place like every year, every beginning of the new year. So
yeah. So that is that's the coolest part to me. It's actually kind of funny if you go and you look up like Daymar Rally on YouTube or on Google and you type in certain words, the Dakar Rally pops up a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and it's cool to see that sort of parallel between the two. And I guess that kind of answers one of my first questions for you, which was, how did we get to that point? Like, it's been about 4 years now. I think it's been running ever since we got moons in the game, right?
Yes. So, funny thing, as soon as Corsair, who's the managing director of ATMO Esports, as soon as he saw 3.0 during that CitizenCon presentation, I think it was in 2017 or 2018. Then he saw, the first thing we saw was just Daymar, right? That, the sandworm, all that good stuff. That's the first thing we saw. So pretty much idea, because he's a big fan of the Dakar Rally, it just popped up in his head. Yo, I can do this in Star Citizen. And then the entire idea was born. I met Corsair at CitizenCon in 2018, and he's like, yo, I need a caster. I need this. We're running this. We're doing this. I'm sorry, 2017. And then he's like, I need a caster. I was like, I'm down. I'll do it. I'll help you organize, the casting stuff. And that's just how it all began. As soon as we went back home after CitizenCon, our first Daymar Rally was in 2018. And now we're, 5 years later in our fifth one in 2023, which is cool.
Was there no hesitancy, like, hey, this game, you can barely even step into a spaceship without falling out into space? Was there no kind of like pushback against, maybe we should wait until the game is better before we try this?
No, because we wanted to be the first ones to do it. The first Daymar Rally, I think we had like 160 competitors, which is pretty massive for 3.0 back then. And I think in that first one, nobody finished the race. They were able to race for a good amount of time, I think about 3 to 4 hours, but everybody ended up somehow exploding. But it started an ignition for for all the events that we're doing today, because every year people didn't care about exploding. They didn't care about the state of the game. They just saw something that could become a reality, and it was absolutely fun, and they loved the experience. And we have orgs that have been doing it since the beginning, and they just want to continue doing it over and over. So like the experience is just, regardless if you finish or not, it's an incredible experience when you're in game with 100 other people trying to race and trying to be that, going across that moon. It's super unique.
Yeah. It can't be. I mean, it's different watching it and being in it. Now, I've never actually been in it, but I have covered it, and I actually got to be on the ground at one point. I think it was the second or third year. And I was kind of covering it from the ground, and it was very cool to see the way that people were working together, strategizing, figuring things out. To be quite honest, this is, in my opinion, as close as you can get to what everybody imagines as pod racing in Star Wars. Because you think of pod racing, it's not just the fact that they're in hovercrafts or the fact that they're on a desert planet. It's like the survivability, the sabotage, the Tusken Raiders out there possibly killing you because there are no boundaries to the racetrack. And it's like, this is it. This is that. It's so cool to see. And like you said, it's something special. You guys have, you said, been doing it 5 years. You've got over, 1,000 people on it this year?
Yeah, this year we have over 1,000 people, including competitors and staff. In competitors wise, though, we have about 60 or about 50 to 60 more teams than last year. So we are around 766 competitors, maybe a little bit more than that for this year's Daymar Rally, which is absolutely insane.
Wild. That's great to hear. Awesome. And the game, the race itself is supported by CIG. I mean, it's been added to the official lore of the game, which I think is really cool. And also something that people might not realize. In fact, something that we're seeing even this month with 3.17.5, while that might be an update that they normally would put out, a lot of times CIG makes sure to focus on the bug fixing aspect of, that dot update in January, right before the Daymar Rally. And you can tell that they've got the Daymar Rally in mind. In fact, I think there was 1 year when, like you said, everybody was kind of bouncing and exploding or hitting something. Wasn't there something they did in January that helped to fix one of those problems you guys were having, or am I mistaken?
I can't say officially like their intentions were to help us fix that, but yes, they have been. They watch, they see the issues that we run into. We have a massive Discord server where people can tell us about the report bugs, report issues, and in return, like if there's something that's super serious or that the community already has handled, the community always supports each other. They go to the issue council and everybody upvotes and helps each other to remake that issue that's happening. But yes, they it seems like in the back end, we're not telling them to do it. We're not telling them to do anything, but they somehow just want to see the event strive. So they'll just come out with a stability patch or a little known issue bugs to fix those those things, so they can make sure that the player experience in the Daymar Rally is just top notch, or the best it can be for what the state of the game is now.
I've always been a huge fan of how much they seem to support and acknowledge the people who are doing things in the game, whether that be the videos people are making in game or the events people are running or the cosplay. Just like in general, they've always done a good job of being involved in the community, and I hope they keep that going forward even as they grow so large. Speaking more towards about the company themselves, CIG, let's talk about what I think makes this a very unique situation regarding Star Citizen. That is that Star Citizen is not a finished game. They're making it, they're adding features, everything's always changing, yet you guys are trying to run the same event every year. How has the active development and the way the game changes every year affected how you guys run the race?
Man, that's a hardy question because there's so many answers to it, right? So I'm going to start off with when you look at traditional esports, right? When you look at traditional esports, whether it's Call of Duty League or Halo Championship Series or even fighting games, right? Every game has the same thing. They have a spectator mode. They have, they have custom lobbies. You know, they can easily run something and make it look good. But we are here in a different aspect of the game, right? Star Citizen currently has, you know, no custom lobbies. You know, we have no spectator mode in the persistent universe, or maybe drones that we can, you know, use and take a look at ships or people racing. We have none of that. So, you know, in turn, we have to take real players being real cameras and going into the servers with the players and being our eyes in the skies. So our camera team is something that's unique that you won't find anywhere else. So and then every time the game changes, we have to adjust, right? So server caps was a massive change, right? Server caps went from 50, and now we can launch a party with 110 people. So now that's just kind of giving us that, you know, that ease, because we don't need as much staff. So last year we had about 13 servers, and even though we have more people, we can squeeze in 110 people in the server. So now we only have 8 servers this year, but more participants, right?
That's
so
really nice.
Yeah, which is incredible. So, you know, like every time the game changes, vehicle speeds, it changes the dynamic of how long the rally goes. You know, when they add NPCs in game, maybe, you know, maybe in the future you're gonna have things like outposts, maybe caves that people can go through, you know, while they're racing in the Daymar Rally. So everything that we do, we have to update ourselves, update the rule book, and then, you know, whatever new mechanics, we try to add it into the game, because the Daymar Rally, the way it's supposed to function, it's not function the way it's supposed to be, because we don't have ground vehicle refueling yet. We don't have repair yet, you know, for the vehicles. So we try to adjust you know, as much as we can to the game, so we can make sure that the tournament runs well. So, yeah, that's my answer for that one.
I mean, that's a good one. It's exciting to see the changes that come in, and sometimes I always, you know, they'll introduce something or they'll do something, and I'm going around the different things that I know happen in Star Citizen, and I come across the Daymar Rally. I'm like, what are they gonna do with that? Like repair or refuel, or at some point when you can, I don't know, stick a wheel back on your Cyclone because we hit one of the many rocks that they put across the across the moons. Actually, that's a fun one. That's always a fun topic when it comes to the Daymar Rally, because people rage about rocks on the moons, and it's been a topic across the game. Has that actually changed much over the years? Like, have you noticed a decrease, or is Star Citizen, are they still trying to put a bunch of rocks in our path?
Yeah, there's so actually the first leg of the Daymar Rally, which is Shubin mining facility to Eager Flats, actually like halfway through you have a ton of rocks, but that's the part of the rally, right? Maneuvering through these rocks. And then the problem is that because of Daymar's gravity, when they bump into that rock, they just can't just bump you. You're gonna flip, you're gonna move, you're gonna, you know. So there's so much aspects to it, but it's just part of the game, right? Like even though the distance of the entire Daymar Rally is 510 kilometers, it doesn't matter, because you have to weave through rocks. So, you know, you're racing 500 kilometers, but you're probably going a further distance because of all the, you know, like it's up to you and your support ship to find that the best pathway to get to the finish line first, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like you're always going to have rocks, you know, you're going to have outposts and derelicts in the future that you have to go through, you know, NPC pirates that are flying around where you have to have your support, you know, your support ship help you probably fight off if they're coming after you. We do have security, which will help you, but there's just times where security can't always cover everything. So, you know, the dynamic of the Daymar Rally is having it in the persistent universe where anything could happen at any time, you know? So, yeah.
And that's the fun of it, like I was talking about, with people who are sitting out there attacking. I mentioned, I think it was before the podcast, I mentioned that I had covered it. And when I was out there, I ended up on the ground. I think it was second or third year. It was the year that Kane had to finish on his feet.
That's the third year, yeah.
Yeah. So I was out there with him, and it was crazy to see on the ground, looking up, like watching him running, you know, just 30 kilometers he had to sprint across the desert, and looking up and seeing these spaceships flying overhead, fighting each other, securities engaging with these pirates, and just knowing like this is all part of the experience. It's not just a straightforward drag race on a closed course. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's we're creating a massive event with emerging gameplay, and it's funny because we have, you know, the org pirates in Star Citizen. Like, you know, we've actually talked to them before, and they're like, yo, like, what is y'all's plans for this year? And they actually try to talk to us and tell us, hey, we don't want to attack, you know, the racers, but, you know, just kind of let us know what securities are there, because that way we'll know their names and we can go and fight with them, because that's what we're doing. And so like we're over here trying to coordinate with pirates so they can go attack security so they can have a good time while everybody's racing. So I just find it super funny that, you know, that this is the type of emerging gameplay we're making. But on top of that, you ask yourself, like, what other esports or tournament or anything that you're organizing ever needs security?
Yeah.
Star Citizen does. So
it's
crazy.
And it's interesting because the game is just, it doesn't really cover you on a lot of that stuff either. You know, one of the major problems we've had recently is that somebody can kind of start to annoy you or grief you or just bait you into getting mad at them, and then you shoot them, and, you know, you're defending yourself, but you're the one that gets the crime stat. And those kinds of things must make it kind of difficult when you're putting all this stuff together with security and whatnot.
Yes. But you know what, man? We have, like I said, this community, like, just like myself, right? I put a lot of time behind the scenes at ATMO. We have our staff, everybody that works behind ATMO Esports. We're doing it all on a voluntary basis for the community, right? So even security, right? We got Walkers of Sigma, who has been incredible working with to organize like security, and we have so many like PvP orgs that just want to help and want to be a part of the experience. And you know, like, everybody's coming together, right? Like, it's going to be an 8-hour race most likely, and everybody just comes together, takes time off, and just huddle up to make this event happen, which is absolutely incredible.
Would you say, do you think that it's going to change over time in terms of, because you said there's PvP orgs that want to be involved, people really want to run security. Do you think as more things start to come up and people find other things to do, it might be difficult to find enough people to help out with that stuff? Or
I don't think so. I think for me, like, you know, like the talk about like them wanting to have custom lobbies and have the persistent universe in custom lobbies so people can possibly role play without interruptions and things like that, right? You know, like I'm not sure if that's a possibility yet, but I feel like no matter what, the Daymar Rally is going to stay in the persistent universe. And, you know, like, until like when we have everybody in one server, like, I doubt anybody's going to even be like, I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but there's going to be so much like trying to, you know, there's going to be stealth mechanics. There're going to be so much different things that we're going to have to watch out for, and security is going to watch out for, that, you know, it's going to be even more emerging gameplay, right? Like the vehicles or the racers, instead of them having multiple spare vehicles, they're going to only have one, and they're going to have to repair it. So I think people are going to want to do it more because of how much it changes every year, because every time it changes every year, there's either new mechanics that CIG is putting in, or a new vehicle that excites people, like the STV or the Rangers or the G12 Origin vehicle. So I think that no matter what, as soon as we can continue to get either new vehicles or mechanics every year, is going to get more people interested, you know, to be a part of the Daymar Rally, whether it's just being a staff member, security, a racer, a camera person, a photographer. They always want to be a part of it, which I think it's incredible.
how do you deal with the amount of, because right now we don't have server meshing, you can't just get a bunch of people in the same place. How do you deal with allowing the amount of people who want to help out into the server while also leaving enough space for all the racers?
So we go through an entire like rostering, right? So for instance, registration for the Daymar Rally closed on December 10th. And then once registration closes, we do a process of confirmations, because people can register up to like 6 months ago. And we just want to make sure, like, hey, Daymar Rally's coming up. We want to make sure that you can confirm that you can make it.
Yeah.
And then we go through an entire rostering process. So, you know, some teams can average between 1 to 4 people. So we'll literally, you know, Zol and Corsair, they do a great job at, you know, going through an Excel sheet and rostering, you know, all the competitors, and then all the staff that needs to be in that server, all the checkpoints, security, cameras, you know, so it could be anywhere between, you know, I would say the ratio would be 90 competitors and 20 staff in each server. So, you know, we'll organize each server just like that. And, you know, however many competitors we have, the first thing we'll do is we'll split those into servers, and then we'll start putting in our staff and security and cameras and you know, different roles into those servers. And we know the cap is 110, so we cap it, you know, those servers at 110 with everybody that we need, and we call it a day. And then, you know, we have situations where we don't, sometimes, you know, things happen and people can't show up on the day of, you know, even though they confirm. So, you know, that's why we have extra security, because if there's a team of 2 to 4 people that can't make it, just use the overflow security that we have, and we fill up the server so that way they don't get any, you know, griefers or anything like that in the server to kind of mess up the race. So
yeah, it makes sense. Do you have? Gosh, this question just slipped my mind. I had it ready and then I lost it. Oh, how many times have you guys had to deal with like a 30K? Just completely ruining an entire server, like in the middle of the race or something, or somebody's about to finish. Has that occurred?
Yes. So before I answer that question, I always have a disclaimer where I tell people Star Citizen is a game in alpha. Anything could happen, you know, so there's things that are going to be outside of our control, right? If you cannot handle, you know, that aspect of the game, do not participate, because it's just going to upset you and then you're going to be mad. Right. So, you know, that's what I tell people, like make sure you understand the state of the game, that anything could happen. But again, in the first 2 years, we've had an entire server 30K, and our rule is after, you know, everybody passes eager flats. Like if the server 30K is, that's it. The server's done.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter who's in there. I don't care if you've won last year. It's over. There's nothing that we can do about it. We're not going to start over, because if we start over, then we're going to be there for 24 hours. And you know, we have to take accountability everybody's time that's volunteering. So, you know, we've had that happen. You know, we haven't had it too much to where we always would crown a winner no matter what. But, you know, in year 1, nobody finished because everybody exploded. Year 2, we've had some 30Ks, but we did get some people to finish. But, you know, to be honest, man, I think CIG is doing a great job at having server stability, because even like last year, we had barely any 30Ks. Maybe one server out of the 13 30K, but still, like, it's been pretty solid. But, you know, in the case of a 30K, we do have some rules around that, just so that way, you know, we're not here organizing and being here for 24 hours, because I think everybody thinks all the volunteers at ATMO are Superman, and we can be here all day to help them, you know, complete an 8-hour race. But yeah, 30Ks have been definitely a factor, but I think over time has been getting better and better.
Honestly, and apologies to everybody, you'll hear this in the background. I am back in Turkey, so call to prayers are now a feature of the streams and podcasts again. But hey, it is interesting that and I just lost my train of thought once again. Jeez. Oh, it's interesting that we have to deal with 30Ks. I mean, I know that servers crash in most games at some point, but it is a very unique Star Citizen thing that, like, you can say, well, you know, we're running a tournament, but there's also the 30K complexity, and people will be like, yes, of course, that is a thing. I know that. It's universal. So it's interesting that you have to figure out a way to get around that and to work with that while trying to run this event. Because I mean, I'll try to put together like a 2-hour event in game with my org. We'll get like an hour in with all of our prep. Server 30Ks. We're kind of like, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. But like, you guys have been planning this for a year. 1,000 people, tons of servers, real life sponsors. Like, you do a lot of work for this, so that must be really kind of nerve-wracking on the day of, just hoping that that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, like you know what I do at work in real life, it's kind of like the same thing. I work in esports. I'm an esports manager, so it kind of like relates, and it kind of makes my job at ATMO a little bit easier. I'm not going to say that much, but it makes it a little bit easier because I already know what to do, and, you know, make sure that, you know, we explain to sponsors like, hey, that we're you're sponsoring an event in an alpha that anything could happen. It can cut the, it's short, but like a lot of people don't understand that our sponsors are not there for, I mean, obviously as a company you want exposure, but they're really there to support the community more than they are to support, like trying to get their stuff visible out there. And we make sure that the people that we partner with understand that hey, like if you're over here looking for results, it's never going to be a good fit. You're going to be here to support the community. And a lot of people that actually sponsor ATMO, they're all players too. So, a lot of people may not know that, but like a lot of people at Toby Gaming, they play Star Citizen. A lot of people at Gamer Advantage, they play Star Citizen. A lot of people, that from all the sponsors that we have, they play Star Citizen and they understand. But, again, they do it because they understand and they love the community, and they see us as, like the premier tournaments for Star Citizen. They see us as, like the, being at the top and organizing these tournaments because we're well seasoned. And I'm going to tell you right now that nothing in the background goes to plan. Nothing goes smooth. Everybody can possibly see it go smooth, but like, like me, I hold a lot of the team to a high standard because I've seen bigger shows and things come to life. And, like, I think we're going to get to a point where people are going to be like, dang, like this is only getting better every year. Like, like our broadcast, we went from using OBS Ninja to using multi-twitch back then to using, to now using a full production suite with vMix and giving a better quality, getting replays to things like the Daymar Rally, where if like an explosion happens, we can actually go back, take a look at it, and show it to and show it as a replay to to the entire audience. So we're just getting better with it every single year, it's only gonna get better. But there's still a lot of kinks and things that we have to work on because like we don't have like insane funding like other studios have. We're all doing this for free. Not even Corsair pays himself. Nobody pays themselves. Like we take all that sponsorship stuff that we get and we put it right back into the community, prizing, trophies, getting boot stuff done. So maybe we'll be at CitizenCon again. That's our priority, to make sure that we're being involved with the community as much as possible, because without the community we wouldn't be in the position we're in to even make these tournaments happen. So
it's very cool. I definitely see what you're talking about, especially with the sponsors. I don't see like HelloFresh sponsoring nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with HelloFresh, but like the sponsors, like you said, I see people like Game Glass or Toby, like places that are like, hey, these are the people who are using these things. Let's go out there and be there for them and show that we're still paying attention to the game. And it's cool to see them talk about it on. I mean, it's obviously it's social media managers for these companies that are putting these posts out there, but it's cool to see them talk about it on their own social media and stuff, and just kind of acknowledge the work that goes into not just Star Citizen, but like the peripherals that work really well with it. I think the eye tracker is a super good example of that. That
yes,
it's a unique game and it can use things in unique ways. Because the things that you're doing in the game are also unique, like these tournaments you're running. Now I want to return back to the features talk. That's honestly what gets me excited. Do you follow the feature development that much? I know some people like to play Star Citizen. Okay, so you are into the features that are going on. What are a couple of things in the last year that you feel have changed the race specifically from 1 year ago to today?
So refueling has been a big one, right? Because usually what would happen is that a lot of the support ships that are flying would have to go either to an outpost or, especially like say they're flying a C2, right? You can't just go to an outpost and refuel because apparently it's too big. So, you have to either go to Port Olisar or go to Grimhex, go refuel, come back to Daymar, and, like you're going to lose a good maybe 20 minutes doing all that. So I think refueling... we have Ultima Energy actually this year with Sagelian, who recruited a team of Starfarer pilots to actually have a refueling option in every single server. Now we know that that refueling has been breaking But
Yeah.
we're hoping, fingers crossed, that that we can make it happen and it all works well. But refueling will be a massive part of the Daymar Rally this year, especially for support ships. And then another feature that continues to make us really happy is just increase server cap every single year. It may not be a feature to some people, but to us, it's such a luxury because, and like this year, we would have had 17 servers instead of 8. And
Jeez,
in
17.
every single server, in every single server, we would have to put 2 checkpoints, so we would have had way more people. And instead of having, 2 or 3 checkpoints, which would take up to 24 to 30 people, now we only have to have about 16. And with the server cap increasing, we were able to add a checkpoint that we've been wanting to add, which is called checkpoint echelon, or it's supposed to be a reclaimer derelict called the Betty.
Mhm.
So we're actually putting reclaimers halfway in the race, so people that are racing will need that support ship to actually go find the Betty and go locate it. They have to drive under it as a checkpoint, and then they get marked down that they passed that checkpoint. So with the server capacity increasing is allowing us to do more and more things that that when we released the rule book initially,
Mhm.
it's allowing us to actually do it, which is absolutely incredible. And then sooner or later we want to find a way for people to actually, once 318 is out and all this stuff is out, like we want to be able to get people that maybe that it's the filthiest race in the verse. So vehicles are allowed to shoot at support ships, and if vehicles go down, we want to have a team that can just come salvage everything and take that back. So I think sooner or later we'll probably also implement salvaging into the Daymar Rally and just make it everything. So and then medical, right? Medical is another big one, right? During our event called the Hursted Herlacher, which is a battle royale in a crater
Mhm.
on Magda. Like that was a big thing, man. We had medical people supplying food, drinks. They were actually grabbing their bodies after the event was finished and brought the bodies onto the Cutlass thread onto the other ship, so that way they're able to actually recoup their armor. So like there was so much cool things happening this year. So I think those are the main features that I've really, really enjoyed seeing, become a part of, the Justice Star Citizen ecosystem, that has really made, the gameplay a more persistent and, everybody's favorite word, give our events more fidelity. So
For fidelity, immersion.
yes.
What about ground vehicle speed changes? I think they did something with that more recently.
Yes.
Did that affect you guys' runtime?
Yes, it did. So they slowed it down to give you a perspective of the Cyclone RC, for instance. The Cyclone RC, the average speed is 55, or it's actually rated at 55 ms, which is meters per second, if people don't know what that means, right?
Mhm.
So, and then with boost, it went around maybe 95 or about 90 ms, which is super fast. And from 55, it got cut down to about 35, which is,
Oy.
a massive cut because like buggies would finish the race within 2.5 to 3 hours almost, or maybe 3.5 hours or so. So now that they got cut, now the buggies are finishing anywhere between 4.5 to 5.5 hours. And if you're not experienced in the Daymar Rally, you're going to take about 6 hours to finish. So the speed of vehicles changes has been I to be honest, it has been it's making the rally longer, but I'm okay with that, right? Because the vehicles, like with the decreased speed does feel a lot more better. It's sticking to the ground a little bit more. It feels a lot more fun to ride, so I can understand that, and that's not a problem for us. So like we'll just adjust, and the way we're adjusting this year is so the rally doesn't go on too long, and we don't obviously we have a lot of volunteers. So once the first 3 people finish after every division, then a 1 hour timer will start to count down. So once that 1 hour timer starts to count down, whatever distance you have already reported will be your final distance for the race. So once first, second, and third place finish for each division, the 1 hour starts, and then after that 1 hour is completed, the rally is completely over. So
Okay.
We put that in place so we don't, are there for 12, 16 hours casting, or, have the volunteers up all Saturday long for that. So, yeah.
Yeah. That seems like a good call. It's gone on long. I mean, do you guys have an estimate for how long the trucks take with these new speeds as well?
Yeah, so the trucks were at 40 ms, and now it's about 25. With once 318 is released and they update it, it'll be around 29, which is actually pretty good. But we're looking around 6 hours for the truck division, which is actually not that bad.
Yeah.
But you have people like Jed Heller, right, who mastered the Rover, and this guy does it in like 5 hours, 5.5 hours. Like, I don't know how he does it. He's been racing for years. He's won 3 Daymar rallies, or I think 2 or 3. But people that have mastered and practiced year round in the Daymar rally, they finish a lot faster. And like I said, like a lot of people, a lot of new people are probably not going to be able to finish because of that 1 hour timer. But I think it's fair for everybody. So yeah, 6 hours.
I think that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, honestly, because you can get so spread out at some points. Let's see. So I'm trying to think if there are any other features in the past year that I was interested in their impact on the Daymar Rally. The regeneration stuff interested me for last year's Daymar Rally. This year I was kind of wondering how refueling might affect it. There's still no refueling for ground vehicles. And
yes, correct.
Does that scare you at all? The idea of having to figure that out for all of those different vehicles across the race?
So yeah, it's tough. I mean, we kind of already have it figured out in the rule book. Like, we have checkpoints where we're gonna have Starfarers in place whenever ground refueling. But it does scare us because right now there's a few issues with, like, when you spawn a rover, apparently it's supposed to have a life of 4 to 5 hours, and when a rover needs to finish the rally in 6 hours, that means that rover is going to have to die. So for the Daymar Rally, we don't allow respawns, but because now that how do you say that the mechanics is in the game is allowing the rover to die after 4 hours of use, because either it's a bug or like it's not something that they kind of fully have fixed yet. So pretty much, like, let's say, for instance, you spawn 4 rovers, right? They all fall under the same timer. So if you've had a rover spawn for 2 hours and you spawn a new one, that rover is under the same timer as the one that you just spawned. So it's going to die within 2 hours, and you just spawned that rover and you haven't been using it. So, like, it's tough that, all the vehicles are dying. I mean, what do you call the I keep forgetting, man. Not the coolers, but the
power plants?
Yes, the power plants.
Yeah.
There you go. The power plants only last 4 hours. So that's what's dying in the vehicle, and it's just kind of like I said, you can spawn as many rovers as you want, and the power plants stays in the timer of what you get the first vehicle. So until that's fixed, we actually have to let the rovers this year in the truck division kind of like go back and respawn a vehicle so they are able to kind of continue the race, because if not, every single rover that doesn't get to the finish line they're all just gonna die. So that is actually in game now and it's working, but they just need to adjust it properly so it can work properly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For now, it's like they have a big pit stop.
Yes.
They just have to strategize what the best time for them to stop and switch it up would be, which is kind of cool complication.
I'm just hoping that, like if they have, new coolers and new power plants, I'm hoping that, like that can kind of add maybe some kind of like tuning dynamics to the rovers or, the buggies, because I feel like, like if you're adding a grade A, a grade A power plant as opposed to a grade C, maybe, yes, it's giving it a longer time for you to drive that vehicle, but maybe I should give it something like better maneuverability or better tuning, or maybe give it a boost or something. So here's to hoping that there's some type of tuning, mechanic with the vehicles in the future. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see how components would affect vehicles. I haven't really heard much about that. Speaking of which, though, let's talk about some features that you think might in the near future expand on Daymar Rally. So we just discussed really physicalized components, and talked a bit about like ground refueling, but what are some other things that you're really excited to see come in that you think would be well incorporated into the rally?
Repair is such a big one for us. Like, we really want the competitors to be, like just like the Dakar Rally, they get one vehicle. That's all they get. Like, they're like, if their vehicle breaks down, they have to go on site and get it fixed, right? So that we want the same mechanic component in the Daymar Rally. So repair is such a massive one. So I'm hoping that, and obviously they're first going to start off with like ship repair. But like, we just want to be able to have that component in the game as soon as we can, because I think it's going to make the dynamic of the race a lot more fun. Because if you're racing for 2 hours and you're damaging your Cyclone or your SCV and bump it into rocks, you have to stop. You have to take 5 to 10 minutes to actually fix that vehicle, so that way you possibly don't explode, or you possibly don't, your cooler or your power plant stops working. So I think repair is such a cool aspect that can really add some dynamic to the Daymar Rally.
That would be very cool. It takes away some of the concentration on just holding a button and not hitting rocks, right? It reminds you that you need to be more than just a good racer. You kind of got to be smart about it, which is cool. Do you think?
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one more feature would be is that I'm not sure if you remember, but in the vehicles we used to have the star map, and it would give us like the direction of where we can go, and that got taken away, and we don't have that anymore. So we have to depend on support pilots. Even though you still need to depend on support pilots, I really hope they bring back some type of navigation feature to the ground vehicles once again. So
yeah, it would be nice if with the FPS radar and scanning we've been hearing about, they would include a vehicle version of that. But I guess it would be more closely aligned with the ship version. We can't actually ping, or can we ping and use the scanning functions in vehicles, ground vehicles?
No. Yeah, but back then they used to have like it where you could put it on the dashboard, so you can actually see a little bit of the map and a green line of where you're directing to, because you added it to the star map. And I know with the they're gonna have star map improvements, so I'm hoping that maybe that kind of comes back to the ground vehicles, where you're able to actually have the star map on the dashboard and like pick a place where you need to go, and it just like gives you a direction of where you need to go. So
yeah, that would be nice. Even just like a better compass would be good for for ground vehicles.
Yeah, compass will be a bit difficult. We were told a little bit, because we kind of came up with that idea, and they said that they will need to add magnetic poles to every planet and moon. And I'm like, don't even worry about that. No compass. It's not gonna work for us. I think just having it to where like we have a navigation way where we can maybe have the star map on a dashboard or somewhere. Like, I think that would be super helpful. But yeah,
something like that. There's also breakability, which I guess kind of falls in line with repair. But the idea, when I think of breakability, I start to think to myself, how far are they going to go? Are you going to hit a rock with a cyclone and a wheel's going to come off? Does that repair functionality allow you to put that wheel back on, or are you just going to like point a laser at it, press the button, and a wheel will appear?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The idea of repairing a vehicle just opens up more questions for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's not the way. I'm hoping that, kind of like how loot boxes work, is that, if you're running a Cutlass, right now, and you guys can have some loot boxes in there that have, like maybe one spare wheel for the Cyclone takes up, like half that loot box, and you can only have 2 wheels per loot box, so that way people would have to, kind of start, looking for those loot boxes and putting it in their ships. And that's where they'll have spare tires, and spare components for the vehicle, like the power plants and the coolers and all that good stuff. So that's why I'm hoping. Yeah, it is in my head, because if they're just pointing a gun and it pops up, that's kind of like,
yeah, no, that would not be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they could just basically allow us to use tractor beams to move any single part, right? And then if you just move that part into the place it's supposed to be, you could just kind of snap it on, and if it's good, it's good. If it's broken, it might not work so well. That'd be a fun way to do repair, at least part of it. But that's a good one.
I totally agree.
How about this is kind of a wild card. Have you ever thought about hacking being a complication? Because they talk about being able to hack ships, right? You ever thought about the possibility of people being able to hack other ships or vehicles during the race?
I mean, that is a possibility, I've actually had a thought about. But like, even though when hacking becomes a thing, then you still have just security. Security is gonna, have those ships where they can have those countermeasures, and if somebody's being hacked, you're like trying to find their location and take them out. So to me, like, I would be down for that. It's not a matter of like, if they get hacked, that's cool, man. Like, now we have to find that person that is doing that, that's hacking, and we got to take them out. So that just adds another dynamic to security than just, hey, let's just fly around and make sure nobody comes and tries to ruin the rally. Now they have to, search and destroy, which is so cool. And, to kind of think about, like, security, you got more stuff to do now. So I think that would be a cool aspect, to be honest.
You're all about the emergent gameplay. You just want to see more fun being had.
I mean, that's what's going to attract people to, to volunteer and be staff or be security or be in the race, because like, anything could happen, so yeah, I mean, I would be 100% down for that. That'll be cool.
Cool. That'd be sick. That's just one of many things that I think could complicate things, but hacking would be just really interesting, because everybody's thinking about physical attacks, pirates coming in and shooting with lasers. But what happens when you have someone out there who's just like sitting behind a rock, disabling support ships, like, as they fly? Very interesting.
Yep. I mean, I think it sounds incredible, man. So, like I said, the emerging gameplay, whatever they want to add into it. But, one thing I'll say is, like, don't add something in the game if it's going to be, overpowered or like, somebody's hacking, you can't find them. Like, you should be able to have some type of countermeasure towards it, because if not, then it's just not part of the game at that point.
Yeah. You should be able to defend yourself. Switching things up, I want to talk about two different but actually very, very similar topics. Generally, they're both concerned with how the race will improve in the future. But I want to know from you personally, including hypotheticals, just really anything that you can think of that you see the team doing to improve this event going forward. I know we've talked about incorporating different features and doing things like decreasing the amount of servers being used, but what are some things that you see happening in the future that make this like a much more official event in your mind? Something that's more, I guess, heavy, hard hitting, impacting to the community.
I think that, us being able to integrate API into the game would be fantastic, because one of the things that we have the most difficult with is actually properly reporting people's distances and seeing where people are at. That's one of the hardest things that you could do, because we don't have that dev mode where we can go and see where everybody's at in the server and have that data. We don't have any of that. So like, I know CIG, their main focus is not esports, is not these tournaments, because we're doing it. Their job is to make the game. And a lot of people think that, hey, like, why is there esports in Star Citizen now? The game's not even done. Look, I'm gonna tell people this, and I tell people all the time. We are running competitive tournaments. This is not esports. Esports, you are supposed to have competitive integrity in order to call it esports, right? So things like Fight or Flight or any of these events that we're doing right now, are really not esports. It's just an emergent competitive tournament. Now, like, things like being able to track the distance properly is a massive thing that we want to improve on. Being able to have a proper way to spectate each vehicle is also a thing that we always want to improve on. Not that we want to get rid of our camera team. Like, maybe there's a ship where we can attach drones to these to vehicles, and from one person we can see 6 different cameras because they own that ship, right? Kind of like adding those dynamics in game that can just help make things better, because, like, we don't want to take the Daymar Rally away from the PU. We don't want to, we don't want to take it away from the PU. We don't want to put it in a private server. We don't want to do that. We want to continue to give that emergent gameplay to everybody that's participating. And it would be kind of great to have those tools in game so we can proper report on things like distances and really capturing people's cameras and capturing the racers and being able to give them that visibility that every single racer deserves. And right now it's very, very hard to do that. Like, for, let's say we have For instance, right now we have 8 servers. We're gonna have a ton of different perspectives and cameras, but we have 766 competitors. So out of those 766, we might only show 200 to 300 people racing, possibly, maybe less. So as you know, for this tournament, I don't want people to feel discouraged just because, if you're coming just because you want to be on the stream, that's not the way that you should think about it. You want to come because you want the experience of racing in the filthiest race in the verse. That's the experience you want. It's not about, showing you on stream. But, we get a lot of people, that they get bummed out, and they get a little bit discouraged because we didn't either show their team racing, or, in year 2, we didn't show board gamer racing. It's a lot harder than you think, guys. It's definitely a lot harder. There's only so many cameras that we can put on stream, because the way we are taking everybody's feeds is through vMix, called SRT. I forgot what the acronym of it is, but if our producer has 20 feeds, it's gonna really tank his his performance on his computer. So we have to limit it to a certain amount. So right now we have 2 producers. One's running the stream, and we'll have about 6 cameras, and then we have another producer who will be feeding our main producer all the 10 cameras he's gonna have. So we have to get more people to volunteer to figure things out and have a production studio, because everything is ran online, right? Even, I'm gonna tell you right now, even people like ESL or Esports Engine will have a difficulty running a style event like this because of how much feeds they're trying to get,
sure.
Especially online, but people like Call of Duty League, they have an entire cloud-based server that they pay millions of dollars for, where all their feeds go through there. And I would love to have that, where we have all 700 competitors feed into the cloud and we can tap it into the stream, but we're not making that type of money, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's easy to forget. I mean, even when it comes to things like just streaming and doing general video game content creation, it's easy to forget that this is still pretty new technology. Streaming high quality video around the planet to multiple locations from multiple locations is just it's still not a simple feat. Technology only goes so far. So I can imagine you guys run into implementations there, and I get it. You get out there on the race, you got people who are looking out for you. You told your friend you're going to be there. Maybe your org is looking for the representation and they don't get shown. I get the disappointment, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people to try and get on camera, and I bet the producer isn't sitting there with a list of all the names of people being like, okay, I got them, check them off. I was able to film them, check them off. It's kind of, you got to go whatever is going to do the best for the stream, for the entertainment.
Yep, 100%. And this year, I have a massive dynamic, right? I plan all the unique features that are going to be on stream this year. We got a new distance tracker that we're excited for people to see. We're going to have 3 different racers from 3 different divisions. We're going to have their perspective. They're going to be the Toby featured racer, so they're going to have Toby Ghost on, so we can see exactly what they're looking at, what they're doing, and all that good stuff. So we're trying every year to come up with new and different dynamics that we'll have on the stream, so people can understand what they're looking at, what they're seeing, and be able to comfortably enjoy the show. And then one thing that we're going to do is that we're going to have a animated map on the bottom left of the screen, that will have an average lap time going through the bike, buggy, and truck division, and it'll just automatically just go through. So we'll add the average lap to that timer, and it'll just go through the map so people can know exactly where cool. People are supposed to be at. So we're trying to do our So I mean, one day I wish to just open up a map and have all the all of the teams, kind of like how when you open up a map and you see everybody in the Apex server competing, or everybody in the Moon competing. But the thing is, that's not going to be a thing that's going to happen in the PU unless CIG wants to create that whole backend, but it's going to take too much time. So
yeah,
we're doing our best to give as much information as we can, and something that I always want to do before a stream starts, right? We're going to have our interviews, but before the race, every single time, I like to go through and educate the viewers, explain the rules, explain why we're racing, explain how everything works. So that way, if you're brand new to the stream, and you're watching this event, you know exactly what's going to happen. So I always make sure to have a segment there where I'm always educating the viewers and what they're about to see and how they're able to keep up with everything. So
it's a good call. So I know we we talked for a bit since I asked the question, but generally the ability for you guys to tap into the back end and kind of make better use of APIs and statistics tracking is what you really want to see that you guys can do to improve.
Yes, that would be the biggest thing that we could have to fully improve on what we're doing for the Daymar Rally. That would be a huge like leap stone in us providing out, you know, the information to the viewers and to everybody at home, and you know, like and make sure people are not cheating properly. But you know what, man, like this community is so incredible. We've had people that didn't know about, like, hey, we respawned the vehicle and we finished first, so you know, we want to be honest about it. So you know, like you know, like they were super honest, and you know, obviously they know if they respawn a vehicle, they you know, they get disqualified, or if they respawn a person. So you know, the community is very, very honest, and everybody is just here for the experience, and it's absolutely incredible to have that. But you know, like I said, if we can have that back end of having everything shown, I think it would really level up exactly what we're doing. So
cool. How about on their end? When it comes to Star Citizen, CIG themselves, what is something you think? I mean, you've mentioned, I guess it kind of goes along with your answer, just the back end support that you'd like to see from them. But what are some things that you want to see from them to make these kinds of events easier to run for the community?
Honestly, there's you know, to talk about now, I think they can easily implement a few things that can really help now, right? They can add, you know, like they're adding so many racing stuff, you know, to the verse, which is cool because they're taking buildings and things that are already in game and just like adjusting little things to turn things into a race for ships. And you know, for ground races, I feel like it would be cool if they can create this kind of like community race pack, right? Like charge $10 for it. I don't care. Like, you know, like if there's like a community race pack where you can have a race flag, a couple beacons, you know, a couple cool, maybe a podium that you can, you know, just pop up, you know, anywhere, and people can you know, a little race pack where people can just like create their own community tournaments, I think would be some of the coolest things that you can put in the game, you know, at this moment that could possibly work, because, you know, like that would be something that would help us, you know, like instead of, so we use box missions that we share with everybody in every server so they can see all the checkpoints. Imagine having a cool, nice, you know, beam of light where you can see the checkpoint, you know, with the people in that party, they can see it. So that way, you know, we don't attract pirates. Everybody in that party can see that beacon and they can see those checkpoints, and then they can leave the party and be able to not see all the markers. They'll just be able to see those checkpoints and those beacons, and then they can enjoy their race the entire time. So, you know, like I think having a small little pack, even if we have to pay for it.
You crazy man. Are you suggesting we get actual placeable markers in this game? You crazy?
Yes. Well, it's just for like party members, and you know, and it doesn't have to, it can be used for different things, but yes, I'm asking for that. Yes.
That would be very nice. I mean, the whole getting a box to create checkpoints thing is, you know, it's a tried and true method. We've been doing it for years, but jeez, we really need to move past it. Oh my gosh, not being able to just tell someone, "Hey, this is the spot I'm talking about." Like,
I know,
you have to
right?
get this far from this OM and that OM and this outpost, and
100%.
Oh man, with the map rework that we're hopefully going to see this year or next, I really do hope that that's a possibility, because I mean, it's almost every single time I play that comes up. So I can't imagine how frustrating that is for something as big as the Daymar Rally.
Yep. One more feature though that I feel like could really, really help, you know, us in general, outside of having, you know, those markers and those different things, can be like the party system. If, you know, like kind of tweaking the party system where we can turn off people, or we can turn off a group of people, or we can, you know, like adjust if we don't want to see this, you know, the party marker for this person or these people, we can turn it all off and we only want to see this person. So I think being able to like control the party markers a little better in game, it's going to help so much as well. You know, we can hide this group or hide this or hide this. Like, it would be incredible to have that functionality of like, being able to control party markers in game would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I would really appreciate that. That along with, and this is getting a little bit more off topic, but along with the idea of setting roles for people on ships, being able to tell people what they can and cannot access on ships is kind of in the same vein, which is really nice.
Yes, that would be incredible as well. So I mean, I'm with you on all those aspects, and you know, like maybe they're working on it. Maybe it's part of a system that they're working on, but you know, who knows, man? I would just love to see, you know, a little bit more functionality with the markers and especially the party stuff as well. That would really help a ton.
Yeah. So going back to kind of one of the underlying themes of this show has been CIG's involvement and influence on these events. The Daymar Rally has shown that like proper, reliable, emergent, competitive events can run in Star Citizen. It's been proven multiple times, and it's been proven very well. But as the games becomes more mature, there's kind of this inevitability that CIG is going to continue to start to pick up more of the responsibilities. So like some of the things that we do in the game right now, we have people who have websites that are tracking where you can find items in game to go and shop. Save coordinates, like we were just saying. You can't figure out how to get somewhere, don't worry, somebody's got a plugin that'll allow you to kind of type in OMs or something and let you know how to get there. We even are currently the new players, or the new player teachers. We're the tutorial makers. We make the videos, the pictures, the Reddit posts, Spectrum posts, even just in game, we are the guide system. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff players do to run the game, just like the Daymar Rally. But those other things that I listed are going to start to kind of be encroached on by CIG as they introduce new systems. Are you guys worried at all that CIG could start to, with some more, I guess, large-scale dynamic events, start to steal some of that thunder? Do you think that there is kind of a pressure to keep innovating so that you guys stay ahead of them if they start doing that?
No. Actually, you know, when they added things like the BTR track in Orison, it just kind of, you know, gives people that fire, like, yo, like for instance, right, the buggy track in Orison, if people go in there, they race it and they're like, yo, this is fun. I like racing in Star Citizen. Like it's only one track. Like, what do I do now? Like, you know, and people are gonna start finding ATMO Esports. Oh, this is how you know everything began. Let's go race here. You know, so I think that there's always gonna be a side by side where we both coincide and we just continue to help each other out, because right now where the game doesn't have that much content or everybody's waiting for 318 to go live, people are currently, you know, there's I'm not gonna say like the chance of them, because they're playing the game, is because everybody's right now practicing for the Daymar Rally. So we're creating, you know, that when they're in a downslope working on the game, we're creating that gameplay that people need to kind of hold themselves over until the next patch or the next patch after that. So you know, like whatever CIG decides to put in game, like whether it's more racetracks, more everything, that's just something that we're going to continue using on our side to empower a competition you know, within, you know, our ecosystem, you know, with the community. So the more they add in game, the more fuel to the fire they're going to add for us, because people are going to want to race. Like it's fun to race casually, but there's a whole nother group that wants to race in a competitive environment, and that's what we're providing, right? We're providing competition, and just that, like, I couldn't say it better, right? Salty Mike, when he did the first Fight or Flight, you know, when he did the first PvP tournament, that feeling that he had, he would not let that go. He was talking about that tournament and how it ran, the 2v2 dogfighting, for months. And that's the feeling that we want to continue to give every single, you know, competitor that comes to join our tournaments. We want to give them that feeling of competing, of finishing the race, of that, you know, that just of like, wow, I just competed in this and I got, you know, 10th place. I'm going to try harder next year so I can get first place, you know? So that's the type of ecosystem that we want to build. And CIG can do that, but I feel like they're going to just like continue leaving that part to us because, you know, like they have to concentrate on other aspects of the game, you know, unless they just like, hey, ATMO Esports been doing this for 6 years now. The game's ready to go. You know, I think we should start doing some esports. Let's go and just hire all these guys to do competitive stuff in game now. So, you know, like things like that could happen. Not saying it won't, not saying it will. Or maybe they just want to keep it grassroots, but you know, like I just think that it can both coincide very, very well, and we can work together great. Now, with that being said, imagine that, you know, CitizenCon can turn into a CitizenCon is 1 day right now, you know, and it attracts 3,000 to 5,000 people. Like, could you imagine having a 2 or 3 day CitizenCon, kind of like BlizzCon, where there's tournaments and there's dogfighting and there's an entire LAN fest where people can, you know, like get their teams and race in the rally, you know? So, you know, like there's just so much opportunity for so much more here, and they're doing a great job at keeping up with the community and you know, and asking us what we need. So if they continue to implement, you know, events in game, whether it's racing leaderboards and all that good stuff, like, you know, they can only do it to a certain extent because, like, not everybody is going to have the exact same time and the exact same server to go in and compete with each other, right? They can't.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in and we're like, hey, on this day, we prepare, let's get it. On this day, set some time aside, you know, whereas to their events could be like, we're going to put this track, you guys, you know, the community, do whatever you guys want with it, your own stuff with it, you know, because we have to continue working on the other aspects of the game. So, you know, I think we can both coincide very, very well. And it'll only get better. So if they want to continue adding more tracks in game, I'm all for it because it's just going to empower us more and more to continue using that stuff or those tracks that are in game and to continue building more unique events in Star Citizen outside of the scope of the events that they're putting in. So
yeah. So you see yourself as maybe a more hardcore competitive version of what they can do, because people are always kind of jump in and try that casual stuff, but ultimately look for maybe a more hardcore, possibly PvP focused, more complementary to what they're doing. It's funny. That's actually kind of how I view the relationship between something like Star Citizen and, say, Starfield. Like, some people, I think this was more like an early reaction, and people thought about it a little more and realized it was not probably the way it would go. But people were kind of thinking Starfield was going to come out and just kill Star Citizen. People were going to try it and be like, this is a space game. I don't need Star Citizen anymore. But I see it the same way you're talking about with the Daymar Rally and with CIG. Like, people are going to play Starfield. They're going to try it out. It's going to be, you know, either good or bad. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't. But they're going to try things that are space-based. And they're going to be like, dang, I want to do more space stuff. And they're going to look at the market and be like, there are 5 space games on the market I can choose from. And that will inevitably help Star Citizen as opposed to hurting it. So I like that energy. I like that, that mindset.
On that topic, right? Like, my first space game, Space Sim, was Star Citizen, right? And there were times where like you know, obviously content back in 2.6.3 wasn't that great, and I decided, hey, let me try Elite Dangerous, let me try Eve, let me try these other space games. And I'm gonna be very, very honest with you, like just like knowing that sometimes you can't even get out of a ship, or like just the way some different games are played, I just felt like it wasn't for me because of how Star Citizen just spoils the way the game is played is so well. So even like, you know, like No Man's Sky, like they did a great job at turning that game around, 360ing it, and it's so fun, and I love it, but it still doesn't give me the dynamic that Star Citizen does. And I think like no game, like it doesn't matter, like you will have to take 10 to 20 years the way that they're doing it now in order to get a game like Star Citizen to even evolve. So, you know, like Starfield may have been in the works for maybe 6, 7, 8 years, but I don't think it's going to have the same dynamic that Star Citizen has, which is going to pull me back to it again. So yeah,
entirely different games. I mean, the comparison on its own is kind of silly. I've made it myself. I think they deserve to be mentioned together, but yeah, trying to compare those two games is just crazy. They're so far off.
Totally agree.
But you bring up a good point. Star Citizen is a pretty unique game. For so many different reasons I can't even get started. But it is definitely an unfinished game. And we don't necessarily, I mean, we kind of have an idea of how the finish game is going to play out, finish, whatever you want to call that. But we don't have like a roadmap that's telling us, hey, this is going to get added. This is going to add new competitive features. These are going to add APIs that allow for these things to happen. MMOs, from what I know, aren't necessarily known for esports. So do you think with that sort of uncertainty that we have going forward, and I guess just how you've seen things play out, do you see a future for esports or competitive player events in Star Citizen long term?
Yes. And I'll tell you something that I've been telling people, since we started dogfighting, right? Dogfighting in Star Citizen can definitely be something that can be considered esports if CIG does a great job at putting in custom lobbies and within those custom lobbies, giving a proper spectator mode and balancing all the weapons and ships, possibly. Now for racing, it can as well, but then they would have to put every single, race thing that they built in game in a custom lobby, in a persistent universe, because if you want to call something esports, I mentioned this earlier, you need to have that competitive integrity. So I think for me, like just from PvP itself, I can create an entire yearly league out of just PvP, 2v2, 3v3, 1v1. So I think with from the PvP aspect side, I think there could be a massive dynamic where esports involved, and not just in a small way. I'm talking about like prize pools of $200,000, $50,000, like for each for each region. Have PvP region split where all the regions compete. They come to a bigger tournament, at the end of the year, maybe at CitizenCon, and day one is all esports and crowning our PvP players, and so I can't say the same for the Daymar Rally because we want to keep it as an emergent gameplay online. But for PvP itself, if they do it well, PvP, the action that it brings, the excitement that it brings, the sweatiness that it brings to these competitors when they're grabbing onto those two sticks, can be that esports that everybody wants that to be. And I'm telling you, the PvP community right now, like when they see us doing our flagship PvP events, all I see is a massive gold mine for not for us but for the players themselves, because I think PvP can really grow into something special in the community. I'm not saying other aspects of the game like racing can be, but I think this PvP is just like so action packed, so fun. When new ships come out, it changes the meta. I think that part of the game can really, really shine in the esports environment.
Well, focusing more on that combat side of things, why did that not happen with Star Wars Squadron or Elite Dangerous or other spaceflight sims with combat and PvP?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I haven't played those games, so I can't really tell you about why those happened. But I feel like if the community is not back in that aspect of the game, then there's no, like I'm gonna give you a great example here. There was this Halo shooter game / Portal game. Dude, why did I forget? I forget about the game already.
Splitgate.
Splitgate. Yeah. So that one, right? If they didn't have the community backing it, like now they completely stopped the esports side after they did it for an entire year because it wasn't growing as it's supposed to grow. So like, I feel like PvP and Star Citizen is so healthy where people are throwing their own tournaments and there's such a massive community that I feel like when the game does decide to, come out into a beta or release, I feel like that community can be very healthy and grow alongside, the casual players that are playing right now. They could be like, it can coexist together. And then the aspect of Splitgate, right? That, or other games that they didn't have is having that casual base, right? So by having a casual base or just having people that just play the game regularly, they're going to end up becoming fans of whatever esports is going on in Star Citizen, which in turns can really help, that ecosystem grow for things like, like crowdfunding. Let's put up, a shirt of that team or skins of that team in the game to, so they can have that support in game. So when you're meeting up with a friend in Star Citizen, maybe they have, an ATMO Esports t-shirt in game because they're a fan of what we're doing. So, like building that ecosystem is all up to CIG if they want to have it or not. I've already told multiple people at CIG, like, look, the plan's in here whenever you want it. Like, even if I'm not a part of it, I will give it to you.
Well, and it would be great to see, because like you said, people are running tournaments. Everybody is trying to run their own events and stuff. There are groups that are always trying to put things on. And I guess one of the main questions that I have as somebody who's not involved in this sort of industry, and you're probably the a perfect person to answer this, is when you want to make that leap in a game from just people playing, throwing tournaments, doing whatever with each other, to actually forming a real league like OWL or CSGO or HCS, any of these things, what are the steps that would need to be? Does there need to be a group that is like headed by people who are both outside and inside of the company making the game, that are planning these things together? How would we make that step from we're just Star Citizen players doing things to there is an official Star Citizen league?
That step comes from the community first, and I'll tell you why, right? Because the community is going to be the first people who can prove that concept, right? Which we're currently doing right now. Well, that's what ATMO Esports is doing. We're proving that concept that these competitive tournaments and these environments can change. And esports doesn't have to be like, even though the flagship esports may be PvP, that doesn't mean that we can't, have other stuff happening. We can't, let's do ship racing, let's do everything,
I'm trying to do some space farming. Competitive.
Yes. Space. Oh man.
Let's go. Trying to pick some apples.
Hey, that sounds fun, man. But hey, I think that it can all coexist, in different aspects if the community can create the concept of it, right? If there's enough massive community behind what we're doing, like you're seeing the Daymar Rally, like you're seeing like this year, because of, we run the biggest, not saying the biggest PvP tournament, but we organize the best PvP tournament in Star Citizen, and this year with bigger servers. And the reason, because we have to put, it in the persistent universe, we can't do best out of 3, or we have to cap, the entries to 32 teams or 64 teams, because if not, we're going to be there running, the tournaments all day long, and and unfortunately everybody's voluntary basis. So it's now that we're proving that concept, what are going to be the next step to kind of take it to a more official level, outside of that. And that ecosystem is there. There's a bunch of PvP servers where CIG is a part of, and it's all about, like, how do we convert all these people that are competing and taking the casual people to try to also compete, but also take the people that are just casually playing, all the millions of accounts that Star Citizen owns, or all the million accounts that people are playing, and turn them into fans of what we're doing. That's going to be, the big concept there. And I think it's easily doable because, like, you start off, PvP could be the flagship one, but we can still have a lot of, mini tournaments that we can do in the persistent universe that can really live and kind of give people that fun environment. Like we don't want to just do PvP. It can be that flagship that is really, one day maybe paying somebody's bills or something, but like we definitely want to create more fun things, like let's say, like, hey, we're gonna give these teams an hour to go mine. Whoever brings back the biggest haul is the winner,
Right.
like things like that. We definitely want to bring new and different, competitive tournaments to the verse. But right now we can only stick with so much things that we can do because there's just so much time in the day, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
And that stuff is very different, and it feels like that's got to be the hardest part, is trying to get everybody who is running an event that's maybe slightly or maybe woefully different from the other events, say, hey, we want to get all this together to make something official, to make something that stands out in the gaming industry, and we need you to abide by the rules and practices that we're setting out. You got to get like 50 different people to say, okay, we'll do that. We'll name our stuff based on your league, and we'll do all this stuff. And I can't imagine how difficult that is, but I am so excited to see that happen because, like you said, and like you've shown with your own events, like we've seen in so many different situations, as lacking as Star Citizen is in terms of gameplay options, the opportunities for making cool, emergent, competitive events is surprisingly high. And I think the death and inventory systems, how all that works with so much risk of permanent loss, while it could kind of throw a wrench into these plans of making these things better or making these things work, I think they could make them just higher stakes tournaments and stuff. And I am kind of curious what your thoughts are on that angle as well. Do you think that could cause any problems, the risk that people feel they have when they're competing?
No, because as I mentioned before, like one of the biggest reasons why we don't like, I will not allow a prize pool to go out. Like we did it for, you know, Fight or Flight, but that's only $1,000, right? And I'm gonna be very transparent here. Every single, like I've been a content creator. I know what it is like to be a content creator, right? So even though we don't have the biggest funding, I paid every single creator of just like a content creator fee so they can participate in the tournament. And because of the inconsistency of Star Citizen or, you know, bugs and things like that, where I know that could risk that side of the tournament, they can't say, hey, you know, we lost out on this prize pool because of this bug with missiles or this bug with shooting. So, you know, like we made sure we took care of them and then just added a small prize pool as a compilation prize, just so, you know, that so they can have something to really try and kind of fight for. So sorry, go ahead.
Well, even past just like the general instability of the game, like in the future when the game is, you know, whatever they call finished, if you die, you're dying. Like you're actually losing a character, you're losing that whole inventory, you're paying insurance costs. Like there's a lot of stuff that can happen. Do you think that could affect people's interest in taking part in esports?
No, because if we do, like, say for instance PvP, we would do it in a custom lobby, which I'm pretty sure, like, you know, just like Arena Commander is now, it won't affect anything that you're doing in the PU. But with that being said, it could affect people wanting to race in the Daymar Rally, because there can be an aspect where you possibly end up, you know, dying because of some pirate or security, you know, lettings or something that went through. So, you know, I would say yes. But then at that point, you just see people creating different accounts just so they're able to race in the rally, which could be, you know, a decent viable option. But the thing is, like, why would you want to like say if in the future when the game is done, we're integrated with CIG? Can you imagine if we give you the status of like Daymar Rally champion in game? Why would you want to give your another account? You know, so I think that I think that giving some type of aspect, like once the game is done, we definitely want to increase prize pools, increase what people get for winning these tournaments, and we're gonna make it enticing enough where people can. I'm hoping that they can be like, well, it doesn't matter if I die or not, because, you know, like if I win this, I get more out of it than
worth the risk.
If my character dies, it's gonna be worth the risk. So that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, for like things like PvP, I think that stays usually in the custom lobbies where, you know, that aspect is not going to be you know, a risk. But things like the Daymar Rally, yes, is going to be a risk no matter what. If we want to continue having, you know, that persistent gameplay. So
when you say custom lobbies, you mean like Arena Commander, just doing things in those modules. You really, I guess it's kind of, you got to make it equivalent to a good mission in the game. You know, hey, you can go into this mission to get something really good out of it, but it's a risk. You might lose all your stuff. It could be interesting to see how that complicates the esports league, how that changes the way that people view entering a tournament, and maybe even, like you said, get you even more props for getting that, you know, champion tag for one of those events.
Yes.
Very cool.
But, you know, that's why the features are going to be in game, right? Like we don't want you to die, so we'll probably have medical going around and making sure medical is taking care of people, right? So we, you know, like there's going to be a bunch more things in game other than, you know, just trying. So that we are going to have precautions, security, medical, you know, all that stuff in game to make sure that people are not dying. So, you know, we're going to definitely make sure that we'll use whatever mechanics are in game to make sure that, you know, that there's a low chance of your character completely just, you know, dying and you have to restart it, you know, all your reputations and stuff all over again. So,
Well, best of luck to you on that. There's going to be a lot of edge cases, I imagine, and it is sure it won't be an easy journey, but it'll probably be a pretty satisfying one.
Yes, it's a lot of fun, man. Seeing, we've had stories where a father and son, the way they spend time is by practicing the Daymar Rally, right? And he went off to college, and there's so many stories that we're bringing people together, man. And those are the stories that I don't care how bad people think something looks in front of them. Like behind the scenes, man, I'm just proud of the team. I'm proud of, Zul, Corsair, Enigmatic. I'm just proud of the core team, like Victor, who's now doing our graphics. I'm just proud of the team and how far we've come in the past, few years in order to create something that can really bring people together and just have a good time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Crucian, for coming on to episode 86 of the launch sequence. It's always crazy to me when we count these numbers. Thanks for joining me, man. It's been a great talk. I love hearing about the Daymar Rally. I'm looking forward to it next week, and I am excited to see what comes of it, especially with some of the new changes. Before we sign off for the day, though, you want to let people know, honestly, where they can find you and your content, but also where they might be able to find more information on the Daymar Rally.
Yeah, none, of course. So I'm Crucian Gaming. You can find me on Crucian Gaming on everywhere, Twitch, YouTube, and on Twitter, which I'm pretty active of. But for anything ATMO Esports, you can head on over to atmo.gg. We run 4 main events a year. We run the Daymar Rally, which is our biggest event of the year, which is an endurance race. We run the System 7, which is a F1 racing style league where you actually have to qualify in order to be a part of the top 16. And then we run the biggest 2v2 dogfighting tournament in Star Citizen, which is our 3rd tournament, which is called Fight or Flight. And then we also run something called the Hurston Hurlacher, which is just a fun battle royale that we do inside of a crater. Last man standing wins. So we run these events all year round, and you can check them all out at atmo.gg. You can find all the dates and information there, and register on the website itself. But coming up, the Daymar Rally is going to be on January 21st. Starting at 1600 UTC, with the stream starting at 1630. So if you guys want to come check it out and see the scope of the race through the stream, you can find us at twitch.tv/ATMO Esports.
It's going to be very cool.
It's going to be
I
a fun
cannot
one.
wait. I'm not much of a competitor, to be honest. I don't ship combat is not my thing. I can't wait until you guys get something. This is just me, wishing. I can't wait until there is some form of large-scale mixed arms combat competition. Come in here with drop ships, with 50 different people, set up an area of like 5 to 10 square kilometers, and just go to war, see who wins. Like I'll compete like that. That sounds like fun.
We actually had that concept for Fight or Flight, but there wasn't enough orgs that could get 20 people. To do a 20 versus 20 in a 50-person server. So, that's something that we might end up, just bringing along sooner or later as a showcase event, because that's something that we really, really want to do. And I just saw, some of the other PvP groups actually do a big 50 versus 50. So we definitely want to bring that to life sooner or later.
Yeah, I'd like to get more involved with that. Let me know when you guys are doing that, because that sounds like fun. Other than that, I think I'll just keep watching. All right, Crucian, thank you again so much for joining me today. Thank you, everybody who has come to watch live here, all of our supporters. If you'd like to help keep this podcast ad-free on the audio platforms we're on, Ko-fi, Patreon, and YouTube supporters are helping us do that. And if you'd like to watch this on video, you can check it out on YouTube, Space Tomato 2, which is my 2nd channel, and also consider checking out my main videos on Space Tomato. But that's it for me. That's my plug. This has been episode 86. I have been your lovely, humble Space Tomato today, and this has been Crucian Gaming. Thank you so much for joining me, Crucian, and everybody else.
Thanks.
And I'll see you all next week.